In the name of God, the compassionate, the most merciful. Mr. President, honorable colleagues, as our world faces an unprecedented situation, the fundamental values we collectively uphold, including humanity, justice, and integrity, are under severe threat by an occupying power whose policies reflect systematic discrimination, territorial expansionism, and disregard for international humanitarian norms. After nearly 2 years of relentless military assault, the Palestinian people, especially in Gaza, are enduring mass killing, forced displacement, starvation, and the systematic destruction of civilian life and infrastructure in flagrant violation of international law. The devastation is not confined to Palestine alone. Israel's repeated aggressions against other countries further destabilize the region and threaten international peace and security. Decades of concessions, diplomatic overtures, and normalization attempts have failed to halt Israel's crimes and illegal occupation, instead emboldening it to intensify its expansionist, racist, and colonial policies. The systematic disregard for United Nations resolutions, shielded by repeated Security Council vetoes and sustained armed transfers, has demonstrated that current approaches, though presented as decisive, cannot achieve their stated objectives. A just and lasting solution will remain out of reach unless the international community adopts binding resolutions that address the root causes, ensure accountability, and uphold the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. Madam President, I'm sorry, I said before, Mr. President. Madam President, the Islamic Republic of Iran has consistently called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza, unimpeded humanitarian access and reconstruction that fully respects the rights of the Palestinian people. Iran also recalls its unwavering support for the Palestinian people's steadfast resistance to occupation, foreign intervention, and apartheid policies. Iran affirms that lasting peace can only be achieved through ending the occupation and fully realizing the independence and sovereignty of the State of Palestine. This must be grounded in the genuine will of its original inhabitants, Muslims, Jews, and Christians alike, expressed through a free and inclusive referendum as proposed in document S/2019/862. In conclusion, Madam President, Iran believes that any viable solution must be based on recognizing the Palestinian people's inalienable right to self-determination, rejecting any form of marginalization or forced displacement, and ensuring the full and equal participation of every segment of Palestinian society in shaping the country's future. The international community must urge the Security Council to recommend Palestine's admission as a full member state of the United Nations and ensure full accountability for Israel's war crimes, genocide, and prolonged illegal occupation, including through the imposition of targeted sanctions and the suspension of its UN membership in order to safeguard the credibility of this organization. I thank you.
Madam President, this conference and the endorsement of this so-called declaration are not a serious attempt at peacemaking. These are procedural tactics, a misuse of this assembly to force through by the back door what cannot stand at the negotiating table. Once again, we see externally drafted texts rushed forward without transparency or any debate in this assembly. This erodes the legitimacy and trust of the UN. This one-sided declaration will not be remembered as a step toward peace, only as another hollow gesture that weakens this assembly's credibility. This is not diplomacy. It is theater, a carefully staged performance for headlines, not for peace. It doesn't shorten the war, it prolongs it. It does not weaken Hamas, it rewards them. It does not advance negotiations, it undermines them. And so we must ask, who benefits? Not the hostages in Hamas captivity, not the people of Gaza, not those who pray for real peace. The only beneficiary is Hamas. Consider France's recent pledge of statehood. Hamas welcomed it, praising, and I quote, they called it the political and moral pressure it puts on Israel. When terrorists are the ones cheering you, you have to ask yourself what you are doing. Some members of this assembly treat this conference like a virtual reality game. You put on the headset and imagine peace is imminent, but it is only an illusion, entirely detached from reality. The reality is that Hamas still rules parts of Gaza, armed, entrenched, and vowing to strike again. To pretend otherwise is not diplomacy. It is delusion. You called in this so-called declaration for Hamas, and I quote, to end its rule in Gaza. Very nice, very impressive. This assembly may not openly speak it, but all of it, you know it. Israel is expected to remove Hamas from the equation. It's very nice that you mention it, but who is going to do it? It is on our shoulder to make it happen. We are left to do the real work, to eliminate Hamas, the ultimate obstacle to peace. And make no mistake, Hamas is the biggest winner of any endorsement here today. By the time the speeches conclude, they will congratulate you. They will declare this is the fruit of October 7th. This is their reward for storming across our borders, slaughtering entire families in their homes, burning people alive, kidnapping children and the elderly, raping women, and dragging hundreds into captivity. And now, with this declaration, they learn a deadly lesson that such savagery brings political reward. That lesson is as dangerous as any weapon. And if anyone doubts that Hamas will continue down this path, look no further than this week's terrorist attack at a bus stop in Jerusalem. Innocent civilians gunned down as they waited for their morning commute. That is a proof. Hamas and its allies will not stop. They do not seek peace. They test again and again whether terror still pays. Madam President, this declaration is one-sided. It does not designate Hamas as a terrorist organization, and it dares to equate the release of Israeli hostages with the release of convicted terrorists. Shame on you. This meaningless political maneuver takes place while innocent people remained blindfolded in Gaza's tunnels, starved, tortured, waiting. Meanwhile, many members of this assembly blindfold themselves by choice. By endorsing this declaration, you cover your own eyes. You choose not to see the truth, to ignore the facts. Israel will not wear that blindfold. We see the hostages. We see the terror. We see this declaration for what it is, a political gesture, an act of theater. Madam President, we will not allow Hamas to win in this assembly what it could not gain on October 7th.
It's 2025. America's debt is over $37 trillion, and the dollar just had its worst crash since 1973. That puts your savings and your family's future at risk. That's why we trust Alpha Omega Gold, a company that stands unapologetically with Israel and supports Stand Tall Israel. Visit ao.gold/stand to claim your free precious metals wayfinder guide or call 1-855-426-4653 today. Protect your future before it's too late.